The Octavia Butler quote is that all that you touch, you change. All that you change, changes you. The only constant thing is change. I always title my projects as ongoing, which maybe is a bit of a cop-out of like not wanting to conclude anything. My name is Dorcas Tang, and my Chinese name is Deng Jiaying. So I grew up in Shanghai, but my family is from Malaysia. So I'm third generation Chinese. My great-grandparents immigrated to Malaysia because in southern China at the time there was a lot of poverty, civil conflict. I was studying abroad in Costa Rica in 2017. I was in a town called Monteverde. I remember really missing Asian food, really feeling for the first time racially and gendered. The host family I was staying with, they were like, I have a Chinese friend in San Jose, the capital. Would you like to meet her? And I met up with this Chinese Costa Rican woman named Carmen. And it was kind of a crazy moment where I was like, oh, I've never met somebody who is Chinese Latin American or Chinese Central American. That particular diasporic experience, I remember being really kind of surprised by and intrigued by. And so that sort of prompted this project. Even at the beginning of the project, I knew I wanted to have not just a still image, but also audio interviews. And that's because at the time, I remember seeing a project about the Mississippi Delta Chinese. It was an audiovisual project. It was photographs with audio interviews. And these people had really, really thick Southern accents. I remember listening to it and being really sort of inspired by that, because to hear it and put the face to it is just like such a culture shock. And I really wanted to be able to have people sort of tell their own stories and to hear it from their voices. Initially, I think when I first approached, I was like, okay, I'll take portraits and I'll have these interviews, kind of like the way that these people who I'd drawn inspiration from had done it. But as I kind of parsed through everything I'd done, which included kind of being drawn to their family photo albums and this really big book called the Registro de Chinos, they were so intimate. And I kind of realized that all of these different ways of depicting this community kind of work together in tandem. The way you think of puzzle pieces fitting together to see more of a complete photo. I was able to connect with these people, like these elders, in Spanish, whereas with my own grandmother, I didn't speak her dialect. The photo, Flora and Friends Making Hakao, has a little bit of a story behind it. The person I stayed with in Puntarenas was mostly with Flora, and she was really the one bringing me around, and she was just like really social, said hi to every single person she passed by on the street. But that made her very great at introducing me to so many people in her life. In that photo, she has her quilting friends that they come around weekly and like quilt and just like gossip. But I was very excited because I was like, I love hakao. It's one of the dim sum dishes I grew up with. Finally, after much cajoling from me, they were like, we'll make it, and you can photograph us making it. In the photo, we have Flora on the very right and her friends, all of them together, kind of just making this not quite Chinese, not quite Costa Rican food. A lot of these family album photos that I chose to reproduce and include as part of the exhibition were important to me because they sort of reveal people's personal archives in the way they documented their own lives. I feel like it ties really well into an audio clip that I have of Flora talking about when she was young, like all of her friends, they would all get together and dance. It kind of makes it come to life. This sort of narrative and story that she's talking about kind of shows that these were real lived realities at the time and that they are very much part of Costa Rican history. The other part of it is just that I love these photos of these young Chinese people, whereas I don't really have any photos of my grandparents when they were younger. Once I came back to the US after going to Costa Rica, I remember being like, I don't have to identify with being Chinese. I can identify with being as part of the diaspora, because I have much more in common with the Chinese people in Costa Rica than Chinese people in China. What I'm taking away from it now is like, how do you maintain relationships across all this time and space? What is that like to go back and revisit work that you've done from such a long time ago when I felt like I was such a different person? And I'm sure these people also feel like they're different from when I recorded them. But, you know, the limitations of the camera and the recording is that it shows a moment in time rather than an ongoing dynamic person going through the changes they go through. That's kind of how I see my projects, as the door is always open to kind of revisit, especially because all my projects sort of look at people, and again, people are dynamic and consistently changing. Something that's really important for me across all my projects is that I really kind of push back against the idea of an artist as this like solo genius, right? Like I had so much help. I had all these professors, the backing of a university, and the people in Costa Rica, the people I interviewed who are also very supportive and helpful, they had as much of a say, and it is as much their work as it is mine.